Hello, my good friends. Darren Spees here with you. Today, I would like to talk to you about seeking truth. Let me start with a question. If we don't know what truth is, how could we ever begin to discern or recognize it, let alone abide in it? I'm not talking about a subjective truth either, but more about the thoughts, words, and deeds that lead to life itself. I also want to address a serious problem involving the soul's embodying human form regarding belief and assuming truth. Humanity has been deceived to look outside of themselves for an authority on truth and have bowed down to a false God. Their connection with the divine mind within has become so weak that many have developed spiritual blindness, in which the controllers of this realm mock such beings to their face, showing them what they have become with TV programming like The Walking Dead. And Jesus commented, "Let the dead bury the dead." These souls have forgotten who they are, and that a spark of the I Am dwells within them. They have grown spiritually blind through deceptions. A deception is truth mingled with lies, for no good soul would swallow a blatant black lie. But if the lie was mixed with enough truth, they could easily be deceived. I'm hoping in this video and in future videos that I will be able to help people become aware of the I Am within and help strengthen their connection with it. That being said, the downward spiral has a good grip on many. When a soul falls, there is such a thing as a point of no return. Such like in the physical, when you fall, there is a point where you can catch your balance. But if you go past that point, you will fall all the way down. What happens within also happens without. This really has to do with a soul forfeiting their free will, which happens by getting caught up in the world of illusion and constricting their consciousness to the point where they fall into the unconscious realms of being. If a soul loses conscious awareness, they will no longer be able to choose anything. This all begins to happen when a soul takes their focus off the I Am and places it outside of themselves while in a foreign land, and begins assuming something there to be the authority on truth. We must understand the laws above are the same as the laws below. Hence the saying, "Thy will be done on earth below as it is in heaven above." This is reference to the universal law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. As without, so within. As it is on the highest plane, so it is on the lowest plane. The programming begins early in our lives, starting with the assumptions that what mom and dad tells us is true. Why would mom and dad lie to you? Dr. Bruce Lipton, a cellular biologist and the author of The Biology of Belief, explains that we come into the world like blank iPods, with no songs on our hard drive. It is the first 6 or 7 years of life where we operate in a brain state that allows the subconscious mind to be programmed. In our early years, the conscious objective mind is not active. It is not until about age 8 that the conscious objective mind awakens. This is why it is difficult for many of us to recall our early childhoods. So what is programmed into us in those early years has a major impact on the direction that we will walk as we move forward in our lives. This is why the church is so adamant about raising children up. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. This is the programming of the subconscious mind. The rulers of this darkened realm are master psychologists and are aware of the human physiology on the physical, mental, and spiritual planes of existence. They have a deep insight of how to use and manipulate universal energies to deceive us so that they can lord over a soul being, feeding off our source energy like parasites. Mom and Dad teach you to trust the ways of this world, hence the system, because they have already been indoctrinated themselves by the system. The entire world system, from the scientific community, the schooling system, food industries, medical industry, technological fields, media, monetary system, and all governments are all under the powers of darkness. The World Wide Web is the spider web that has been created to ensnare souls. Human 2.0 is the meshing of flesh with technology, and soon the master AI brain will be the only voice humanity hears. Once you learn how to reposition your focus on the I Am within, your eyes will be open to the sinister plan in this foreign land to enslave souls. But for now, this is enough of this talk. You are here and seeking truth, and I want to help you to be sure that you are actually aligning yourself in truth and not lies and deceptions. I want to say that seeking truth is a discernment process that brings us into the knowing of truth. All that we need believe is that the pathway of truth exists and leads to life. When I think of truth, I immediately think of the words of Jesus, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Although I've always taken those words and moved them around a bit to say, the way of truth leads to life. It clearly shows us where truth leads to, which is life, but it leaves what truth is a bit open-ended. All we know from the statement is that if we abide in truth, it should lead us to life. It leaves us with the job of discerning where our thoughts, words, and deeds lead to. So with each thought, word, and deed, we need to ask ourselves the question, where are they leading us to? Are they leading us into balance, harmony, health, vitality, and life? Or are they leading us into death, disease, and destruction? It is really that simple. But we are going to dive deeper and get into the inner workings of this process. Jesus also said, abide in me and I'll abide in you. And I feel this is also a direct reference to, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Basically saying, if you abide in me, which is the way of truth, then life will abide in you. Jesus also said things like this, love your neighbor as yourself, and to love your enemies. Jesus was always talking about love. I was also attracted to the Corinthians love verse. It basically says, paraphrased, love is patient, love is kind. Love doesn't seek to control, love doesn't demand its own way, and love is forgiving. I immediately started making connections with truth and love. It was almost like truth and love were the same thing. You can literally exchange the word truth for love without changing the meaning of the statement. I am the way, I am the love that leads to life. But what is love? It does say that love is forgiving. And when you hyphenate the word forgiving, it says for giving. The big sun in the sky is what many would refer to as the first heaven, as the light of the world, as if it gives light to create life on earth. The sun doesn't take, it only gives, in the same way that love gives. And its giving leads to life, so the sun is loving in this sense. Love is something you give. I then thought about what love does when you give it to yourself or you give it to your neighbor, and I discerned that love lifts up. When we feel compassion for someone who has fallen down, our love lifts them up. Immediately the words, "I am the resurrection and the life," came to my mind. To resurrect is to lift up, which is the same thing that love does. You could even put the word love into the resurrection statement to say, love is the resurrection and the life. But then we also know that love is the way of truth that leads to life. It's all saying the same thing in different ways. In the Essene tradition, the tree of life, which is within you, has 7 branches and 7 roots. Each branch has a corresponding root, and they connect with each other. Each of the branches and the roots deal with different energies, and where they meet, they create energy vortexes known as chakras. The heart chakra is the result of the heavenly branch of love and the earthly root force of water coming together. Notice that your body is mostly made of water. Water is the antenna for consciousness and can even act like a hard drive to store information. The earthly root forces are related to Mother Earth, or the feminine, and you will soon learn that the feminine aspect of mind is the creative mind, or the infinite subconscious mind, where the programs of the subconscious mind are stored. Water can be looked at as the embodiment of love on earth. When a glass is filled to the top, it spills over the edge and goes to the lowest place, and then begins to lift up. Love is truth because it lifts up to life. I then thought about what life is, and it dawned on me that life is a state of balance. When we lose balance, we fall, but love, which is forgiving, lifts up and restores balance, or resurrects to a state of balance or to life. The Essenes teach us that an intelligent mind can come up with an idea, but if the idea doesn't get the nod of approval from a loving heart, the idea is not truly wise. A wise thought, word, or deed is always filled with love and leads to life. A truly loving heart is centered in the I Am. Jesus also said, "Be ye perfect like your Father in heaven." He also said that he only does what he sees his Father in heaven doing. What does it mean to be perfect like our Father in heaven? I will be getting to this shortly. Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise." Also paraphrasing, "Our Father, who is in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Who is this Father that Jesus is referring to? This is where we need to understand that Elohim, God and Goddess, are present in everything. We have Father Sky and Mother Earth, the sun and the moon, man and womb man, and we even have masculine and feminine aspects of mind. If you haven't already, I highly suggest that you check out my video on the Essene creation story, as it will give you some better insight into how our holographic fractal creation came to be through the sacred geometrical dance of creation. I also touch a little bit on some of the universal laws there as well. You will learn along your journey of coming to know our creators and seeking truth that a full perception means learning how to look at things from many different perspectives or angles. Santo Spinaci refers to this as syncretism. Another quote by Jesus says something like this: "Many will come to me in the end, saying that they have done many things in my name. But I will say, turn from me, I never knew you." The key word here is knew. Knowing is really about abiding in. For in the case of abiding in Jesus, it's really about abiding in the frequency of love, which leads to life. And it is about consciously abiding in the mind of Christ, the Father, conscious objective mind, which discerns what thoughts, words, and deeds are aligned in love, which over time programs the subconscious mind, the mother, feminine creative mind. This is a transformational process that takes time, but really, the time it takes is really up to you. Now, getting back to the Father that Jesus was referring to, I also want you to notice in the Lord's Prayer that it says, Our Father, meaning you have the Father within you as well. When Jesus was in human form, although his avatar was created after 7 generations of purity as a result of men and women participating in the school of Immaculate Conception to create a superior human avatar that could hold his high level of conscious awareness, he still had to access Father through the same type of interface as you and I, which is the human brain and mind. Jesus was abiding in the Father who was in heaven or above because he understood that which is above has directive power over that which is below. Operating from the position of Father would allow Jesus to make the Adam man submit to the God man, the will of the Father. Hence the words, I only do what I see my Father doing in heaven. The word Adam literally means soil. Our fleshly bodies are made from soil, and so our lower selves are referred to as the Adam man, although we also have our God man dwelling within and above. The will of the God man, heaven above, superior consciousness, has the ability to direct its will over our Adam man and lift it up. We must choose to do this of our own free will, shifting our identity from the Adam man to the position of the God man above. Our flesh bodies are heavy, dense, and resonate at a lower frequency. These physical bodies develop what is known as the lower self or ego that we can choose to identify with. Over time, we begin to think that the lower self or ego is real. The ego operates and is motivated more from the perspective of the physical senses. For the most part, the ego is a pleasure seeker and a slave to the senses, but it is not wise, for it lacks the superior consciousness of the higher self, God-man, the Father, and the I Am. There is nothing wrong with incarnating in the physical avatars, as it does allow us to commune with others in the dualistic universe. The problem is when we forget who we truly are, the God-man. Psalm 82:6 says, I say that ye are gods, you are all sons of the Most High. We are all children of God, and so we are just like God, but we literally get caught up in the world of illusion. If you watch my video on the Essene creation story, you would know that the I Am is non-dualistic and can be referred to as one alone. So from this place in the transcendental realm, there is no physical body, and there is no other, as the I Am is the only one. So this is why we reincarnate, to commune with others. Each soul being is gifted with the eternal spark of the I Am. It is that part of us that is eternal. The I Am is holographic, and this same I Am is in all of us. The universal law of mentalism will help you understand this principle. Continuing on, none of us are higher or better than anyone else. We are all the same when we operate from this perspective. This is why when Jesus said, when you give a glass of water to the least of these, you have given a drink of water to me, For Jesus could see that the I Am is in everyone, and that is who he is, and that is who you are also. I say, love your neighbor as yourself, for your neighbor is yourself, when you realize that they are all the I Am as well. The ego, or Adam man, is mortal. In the lower realms, these bodies are caught up in the cycle of death and rebirth. If we continue to identify ourselves with the lower ego, it drags us down further and further on the ladder of being, where eventually we fall into unconscious realms of being, where we can become unaware that we even exist. In such a place, we become shipwrecked, so to speak. I ventured off there a bit, but I feel it is important for you to understand such things. I also wish I could be sure everyone had a good understanding of these Hermetic principles, or universal laws, for they are key in helping us understand how the universe works and how we work. As the universe is dualistic, so is our bodies, and in particular our minds. Our brains have two hemispheres, and we've come to understand them as our male brain and female brain. But we are going to take a deeper look into the polarities of consciousness that come through our brain interface. We have a conscious, objective mind, which is masculine, also known as the father. And we also have a subconscious mind, which is feminine, also known as the mother. I also like to refer to the subconscious mind as the feminine creative mind, for she is the creative aspect of mind. Very quickly, I want to say that the masculine conscious objective mind and the feminine creative mind are the one that are two and the two that are one. They can do nothing without each other. They act together as one. Just as I explained in the Essene creation story, that the Lord and Lady Christ are the one that are two and the two that are one. This pattern is happening all over our universe, as above, so below, as within, so without. So now I'll give you a bit of a story to help you understand how the masculine objective mind and the feminine creative mind work. Imagine the husband given the task to go to the garden to harvest fruit from the trees and vegetables from the garden. If the father is preoccupied with something else, he ends up picking some rotten fruit and vegetables. He then brings them home to his wife, where she waits to receive what he gives to her. She then takes the rotten food and creates a meal with it. She doesn't question what the father brings to her. That is not her job. The feminine creative mind is the subconscious or submissive, where she submits to the will of the father. I want to make this clear, that this has nothing to do with women having to submit to men or be submissive to men, or that men are higher than women, although we play different roles. Even women have the father conscious objective mind within them as well. So continuing on. So the wife creates a rotten food meal, but only because the father aspect of mind did not do its job. She then presents the rotten meal back to the father. The father then eats the meal and experiences a bad reality that makes him want to vomit it out of his mouth, because the food he brought to her in the first place was rotten. Garbage in equals garbage out. You will reap what you sow, karma, and the law of cause and effect. This is how we create reality from within, the mind. The feminine creative mind can only create with what she has been given. So when she receives unbalanced, low vibrational perceptions and ideas, that is all she is able to create with. The saying to prepare the bride for the groom is all about creating purity within her. In the case of our feminine creative mind, it is the job of the conscious objective mind, the father, to stand guard of the door of the feminine creative mind, the mother, and not to let any unbalanced perceptions into her. It is the job of the Father to discern all things. Jesus said, I make all things new, Mother. This references the saying, Be ye perfect like your Father in heaven. The Father in heaven is the I Am, your conscious, objective mind. This is who Jesus is referring to when he speaks of the Father. The Father's discernment is always loving, good, and just, and so the Father will only do what leads to a balanced state, or what leads to life. The Father's will is to bring us into harmony and balance with the universal laws where life occurs. So with each thought, word, and deed, we need to run it by the Father to get the nod of approval from a loving heart, which will allow wise creations to form within and without. The Father, being the discerner of what is balanced, true, and leading into life, must discern if a tree is good or bad. Trees that are good don't produce bad fruit, and these are the trees or outward sources of information that we should eat from. Trees that are producing bad fruit should be cut down and thrown into the fire. It takes work and time to come to discern these things. We also need to understand that we have accepted things that are false into our subconscious mind as truth, when they really weren't. It's not easy to begin questioning what you believe to be true, but this is something that must be done if you want to truly break free from the grips of this fallen world. As in the movie The Matrix, Trinity says to Neo, "Wake up, Neo, the Matrix has you." Notice Neo is an anagram for one. So this is the process of how to seek truth and how to know truth. With every thought, word, and deed, the Father must be present to discern. As we do this and embrace the behaviors discerned by the Father as true, we begin climbing the ladder of being, and consciousness begins to expand. Our spiritual eyes will begin to open, and we see reality for what it truly is. In time, the shift will happen within you to where you say, I am. Thank you for tuning in, and blessings to all. Namaste.